microphones, or do you want me to just repeat the question?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You who raised your hand.
Hi, my name is Liv. I remember you said that you don't lie awake at night, sleepless, about the opportunities that you didn't end up doing.
The only one is Harry Potter. Now and then I go, oh, fuck.
But I was at your exhibition last year at the Bachman. I was looking through all of your scanned versions of your notebooks, and I was noticing that you had all these like beautiful little storyboards that I recognized from your later films.
Yes.
Like, I think in the 2003 sketchbook, you had shots that are identical to some in Pacific Rim.
Yes, of course.
And I was just, so you do kind of still cling on to things?
Oh yeah, no. Ideas are different than projects.
Okay.
I think it's very important to keep a diary of ideas if you can, because then you have a conversation with you at 22 when you're 40, and at 30 when you're 50, and you go, hey, that guy was smart. How did I become this stupid? You know? And before you start a project, you go through your notes. Not rigorously, but you can go through your notes and you go, that was a good idea, why didn't I do it then? For example, the Angel of Death on Hellboy 2, which has the eyes and the wings, that was created originally for a project in 1994. And it was inspired by a Mexican painting in a church where archangels had eyes in every feather. And I took a note. I was in a church and I drew it in my notebook, and it stayed there. And it was dormant until I was able to afford the mechanical eyes and the wings and all that stuff. I thought that would be a great Angel of Death, you know? So you keep it, and you keep it as a catalog where you can order ideas from when you were 23. It's a great luxury, and you know, that's why it's important to keep them. And you can marry, oh, I'm gonna do this sequence one day, and you end up doing it 10 years later or never. But it's a great luxury everyone can afford. A notebook is the only thing that you can consign where ideas didn't come to fruition. Filmmakers, we're not like poets or painters. We're not gonna die and they're gonna find a drawer full of movies. Although, when did he do Mountains of Madness? And we never heard. You know, Kafka dies and they find a bunch of manuscripts. You die, they'll find my underwear, you know, and some socks. So it's important to have these ideas.
Where did the idea for The Shape of Water come from, and how long did you live with that?
You know, I was having breakfast with my co-author of the novel Troll Hunters, Daniel, and we were having breakfast, and he said, you know, I have this idea of a janitor that works in a facility and sees that they are keeping an amphibian man in a cylinder. I said to him, say no more. I'm buying that idea from you exactly as it is. Don't think anymore. Don't add any more details. It's my next movie. The same thing happened with Devil's Backbone. I had a screenplay called Devil's Backbone that was very different from the movie, and a friend of mine gave me 5 screenplays to read, which is the worst thing you can do to a friend. And I read 1, and it was shitty. 2, and they were crappier. 3, it was a disaster. 4 was unreadable. And 5th was good and had one idea, an unexploded bomb in the middle of a patio with orphans around it. I called him up, I said, I have good news and I have bad news. Bad news is 4 of the screenplays suck. Good news is this is my next movie. And the same thing happened with Daniel. You have a clarity. People say, why don't you do more like that? And it's because you don't have them. They come to you instantly, you say, that's my next movie. You have and you abandon everything like a crazy man. You abandon money and fortune and promise, and you go and do that one. For example, with Devil's Backbone, Blade 2 came before Devil's Backbone as an offer, but Devil's Backbone was gestating with Pedro Almodovar, and it was not a sure thing. And they said, well, we're ready to start, Wesley has this opening, and I said, no, I'm going to wait for my Spanish movie. They were like, what the fuck? And they said, well, we'll pay Almodovar a fee, and he will wait for us. I said, no, you don't understand. I want to do that one, and then if you want me to do Blade 2, you wait for me. You want somebody else, you go to somebody else. And if you have that clarity, but it's not like I have 3 of those waiting for you. They happen. In the meantime, you do the best you can with what you have, you know?
Yeah. All right, others, go ahead. We do have microphones, so we'll let this one come to you.
Hi, my name is Reda. So my question is, what is the best way to make people confident about your future project, to bring people in your history?
Well, let me give you my statistics are very bad. I have written or co-written 24 screenplays. I've made 10 movies. So that's, you're asking, it's like asking me for dieting advice. The success rate is very bad. I have written Mountains of Madness, The Count of Monte Cristo, Mephisto's Bridge, List of 7, blah, 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 and I've done only 10. So the only thing you can do is, every movie I've made because I would die to have it made. Like if it's the last movie, it's fine. Doesn't matter if it's commercial or not, I don't distinguish them. I don't do one for me, one for them. They're all for me. To some degree, some are have better luck commercially, some not. Pacific Rim did $415 million worldwide. The Devil's Backbone did 4. And I adore Devil's Backbone. I think is Shape of Water, Devil's Backbone, and Pan's Labyrinth are the movies I love the most that I've made. And I think my degree of convincing is horrible. I tell you, my pitch for The Flight 3. I went to Fox, my agent got me to go to Fox. I go out to Fox, I sit down, and he says, so what do you think of The Flight 3? I say, I think you shouldn't do it. I'm terrible. And the guy said, oh, why? Because the second one was bad, and the first one was great. He goes, oh. Validated my parking and sent me on my fucking way. You know? So the one you have to convince, because that guy is gonna believe in you until you get it made, is you. And I know it sounds like a fortune cookie, but it's true. This is an evolutionary business, meaning we're all salmons trying to spawn upstream. Not every salmon makes it upstream. And the only salmons that don't get upstream are the ones that genetically, as storytellers, are not made for the adversity of the current. And it kind of pares it down. If you are in a classroom of 100 people, 50 will never work in what they studied. The remaining 30 will work in something that they studied but doesn't fulfill them. 20 will be in the middle, 10 will do what they want, and 1 or 2 will actually do stuff that makes them become storytellers. It's a horrible statistic, but it's real, because that's how much you doubt yourself and the world tells you you're wrong. The world is engineered, every movie is engineered to not get made. That the natural state of a project is to not happen. It's not the opposite. It's your will and your belief that makes it made in some form. And so the very important thing is when when you're in a room and you believe in what you're saying, somebody sees it sooner or later. But if you don't, if there's a crack in the porcelain, people see it. So it's, and bad movies are engineered to be made. That's the other statistic. The projects with the worst, with the worst origins, where people say, oh, we're gonna do a kind of Transformers movie with kind of dinosaurs, and we're gonna finance it completely to shoot in Malaysia for 20 minutes, that movie will get made with Rutger Hauer. It'll get made. So it is, those movies get made, and it's impossible for you to think that the opposite is true, that the good ones is your will. So you need to be completely hypnotized by what you think is gonna get made. I mean, I was 17 when I started writing Kronos, and I thought, oh, this movie needs to be made. It's the weirdest vampire movie. No fucking sense in pursuing it, but I believed it. And I said, I'm gonna work in real estate to pay for the effects. And I worked on real estate to pay for the effects. And I'm gonna do storyboards and animation and special effects to pay for the effects and storyboards for my movie. And it took 10 years. That was back on 10 years. I wrote it before Chronos, so it's like that. You have to be completely certain. Yeah.
Well, you know, you use the word confidence too, and I think that's when you go into a room and this is a movie you would die not to make.
Yeah.
That's something that people respond to. I mean, in that.
Well, they should respond to.
Yeah.
Some people do, but it's a myth. It's like the myths. When I met Jim Cameron for the first time in 1993 at a barbecue, we were together. And he said, "I hear you made a vampire movie." I go, "Yeah." He says, "Oh well, you know," and I heard you mortgaged your house and you sold your car to make it. I go, "Yeah." He says, "Of course, you know that doesn't mean it's going to be successful." And I go, "I know, because all the stories we hear is Robert Rodriguez sold his kidney and made a mariachi, but there are 50 guys that sold the kidney, the spleen, and blood, and the movies didn't go anywhere." But again, that should not disillusion you, because if it does, then you were not meant to donate that kidney to make that movie. It's evolutionary. But that's people in the room. We hear the stories of the people in the room that believe in you. That usually comes in the DVD extras when the movie was made and it was successful, and they're all lying. You know, when you go to a studio and nobody believes in you, they give you shit, they don't give you money, and somebody succeeds and they go, "We always believed in you." No. Should I quote examples? So the problem is the media we live, a lot of it is fabricated to give narrative to what is essentially a slow motion accident. Essentially a career is a slow motion accident. It's happening to you. So for you, it's like, oh fuck, you lose 2 teeth, you bounce back, you hit the rest, you go through the windshield. In the meantime, for you, you go, that fat fuck just crashed his car. It just happens. You go, he was so stupid. Why did? In the meantime, it took a year to hit the windshield, 2 years to bounce back, and the movies, the narrative on magazines or DVDs create a narrative. And then Guillermo presented his storyboards, and immediately everybody knew this was the movie. Not true. And I'm here to tell you it's not true. So that if we are sincere and we say to each other how shitty and difficult this is, you may feel your craft and the way you're approaching it is okay. But if I'm here to tell you, yes, they believed in me, bullshit. So just do the best you can, believe in it, and make it about you. Exclusively about you. Whatever your biography is, where you come from, everything that you feel makes you not normal and commercial is what makes you, and a narrator that is worth listening to. So that's one lesson. Everything that your instincts that go against all the grain, those are the good ones. The ones where you say, I want to do a movie that is sort of like this with sort of like that. You know, I don't like those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're saying too about making it personal, I mean, part of that, because we see it done well and we see it done poorly, sometimes people use cinema as therapy, but when they use the detail of their life to make something specific, then you get a film like Moonlight that becomes identifiable to everybody by the richness of its detail. You know?
But you get also Ed Wood, which is, what is fantastic is when Ed Wood died, you know who Ed Wood is, right?
Yes.
Supposedly the worst filmmaker in the world, blah, blah, blah. When he died, his wife came out and said to the trades, the world has lost a genius. I want to be loved like that, you know? And the singularity of vision and what made him him is as unique as that of a genius. That's why Tim Burton's movie is a masterpiece. It's absolutely amazing because these are rules we define to try to do narrative. The same way that when you look at an art school, you say, these guys are impressionists. Really? Okay. This guy died before this guy, they never talked to each other. You know, we try to organize narrative. We're narrative animals. You know, we organize things in patterns. It's I think it's called pareidolia, where we build a face out of random details. The same, because we're narrative animals. We're the only animal we know is completely narrative, that tells the story beyond the information. The bees tell you where the flower is, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't tell you, man, that flower. It doesn't tell you just it's there and it has pollen. You know, but we embellish it. Oh, that was the greatest flower I pollinized. Oh. We really bring our own slant. So narrative animals try to construct these things, but don't mind them. We are all blue-collar motherfuckers trying to make it in a crazy world. That's what we are in narrators. So I hope you don't commit suicide after this.
All right, let's take some more questions. I see someone, okay, here. Let's see if we can get the microphone to you.
They had a question already.
Oh, okay, sorry, we'll come to you next, just since it's convenient over here.
Hello, thanks for coming. I was wondering, how do you decide whether using mechanics or CG in visual effects, and which way do you prefer?
Okay.
And also, were you ever confused some point during your career, and how do you figure your way out?
Well, I think the difference is, I think CG should be the last solution to a problem, not the first. So, you know, a lot of people go there before because it's easier. But I think that you need to try mechanical, physical, real before you go there. And the ideal is to combine them and make them seamless. You know, the creature in shape of water is a beautiful, seamless, hopefully, blend of the two techniques: physical, mechanical, and digital. But I think that if you want to flip a car, and that car hits another car and hits a billboard, whatever, the easiest thing is you do it CG, and but then it's not good. I don't think it's good. I think you need to try and shoot the car flipping, hitting the other car and hitting the billboard, because the one thing, movies will always be a record or a reproduction. And I prefer the record than the reproduction, because the record will give you the accident. A piece of glass that flew that way, a piece of the wheel that came towards the lens. Whereas as an animator, no matter how great you are, you can only reproduce certain number of accidents. You know, because nature is a much more infinitely smart creator of gravity and trajectory, and so, you know, I think recording it is better than reproducing it. So that's the distinction for me. And I always say, if you give the actor something to react on the set, it's better. I love sets. I don't care if I spend more money, if I can, you know, I will build a set. So that's the answer. Confusion should be a permanent state in your creation, along with clarity, because that's creation. You have an exchange of ideas with yourself. And I think when somebody is completely certain to the world, that's a leader. When someone is completely certain to himself, is a fool. You know? So you need to be full of doubts. You need to go, am I doing the right thing? That's the essence of being human. So the last confusion I had this morning, and the last one I'll have 3 minutes before I die. And I'll go, holy shit, I should have gone into dancing. then I'll die. You know, so it is an intrinsic part of you being a storyteller. Why? Because I was talking about paradox and this. If you only see your point of view in a story, you will only be sort of side-blinded to see one character point of view. If you have empathy with the diverseness of the world, you'll have doubts. Look at our leaders now. They know who the good guy is, they know who the bad guy is, they're fucking assholes. So, you know, please, that's the way the world works. No, it isn't. It's much more complex than that. So as a storyteller, what you're trying to do is create your own world. So you need to be full of doubts. Did I answer your question, or I confused you further?
All right.
That's good.
Over here, we had a question up in the front.
Thank you. Well, hello, Guillermo. My name is Jaime, and it's so nice to have you one more year here in Annecy. I have one question about one thing you said before. When you are facing to develop a feature or when you're crafting some ideas and then you have to face the problem about what the people will want to see, what they want to watch, what's the preferences or the references that we have to make for them. Can you give us some tips about what we can do to avoid those step backs and to bring some originality?
Well, I tell you, the 13, 14 movies I have not made are as much an honor for me than the 10 I've made. Because I had not made them for the right reasons. Meaning, we all go through this, and animation particularly, where, I was once on a TV project big with a superhero that shall go unnamed. And we developed for 3 years. And my final conference with one of the big networks went like this. And I'm not embellishing it, it was like this. They say, these are words that mean nothing. Excited and love mean nothing. We are so excited about this new draft, we love it. And it's like, okay. And then they say, these are our notes. And then they proceeded to hate absolutely everything on that draft. And I finished, this has been many years. And I said, so what you're telling me is you're excited and you love this draft of which you essentially don't like anything. Oh, well, I wouldn't put it like that. I go, I would, and this is our final call. And I hung up. And I never went back. But that's all you can do is have that clarity. You will never avoid those step backs because the reality is limits. We can only exercise creativity and freedom within limits. If you give me all the money and all the freedom in the world, I'm Aguirre, the wrath of God, in a fucking barge full of monkeys. Ah! I'm Fitzcarraldo crossing the boat to the other side of the man. I'm crazy. So what we do is we are shaped by our limits into a space of freedom. This was very well put to me by my actor, Federico Lupi, in Kronos. I wrote the part for him and I said, there was a scene and I said, I wrote this scene for you, do whatever you want. I said, no. Give me limits and within that I'll do whatever I want. And that's the essence of our craft. All the things that you think are obstacles are not. There's a Zen saying that I quoted this morning, which says the obstacle is the path. That is the essence of storytelling. Because even void of economic and physical limitations, the storytelling is only interesting when you overcome an obstacle. So the essence of our craft is that. When you say, I had no money to do that, that's why I did this. Everybody quotes the story of Spielberg and the shark not working, and but that's the essence of it. Those limits make the movie or the story or the animation better. Because you say, okay, within those limits, what can I do that is 110% great? But if your model is that thing that was impractical, impossible, and you are defined by those limits in a negative, you fall short. So, it's the next thing, the next best thing to be able to do everything is to know what you can do. And then define the project by that, not modestly, ambitiously, but knowing the limits are there people are there to tell you no. And you're there to say, fuck you, I'm gonna make it with somebody else. And until you're 80 years old and you're feeding the pigeons and fuck you, I'm gonna make this movie. That may be too late by then. But even then I would keep trying. There's no way. The pitfalls are built into the industry.
Do you have collaborators who can help provide those limits to you?
Oh yeah. One of them is sitting right there. But the thing that we have is, I want to introduce you to my entire company. I have no overhead. It's me. What I do is very careful associations with people I completely trust, that I think are great, and I can fight with. When the time comes, I do fight with them, but we create very fruitful associations. I don't have a staff of 20 readers. I do everything in my life. I do my laundry and I answer my Twitter. I do everything. But then my associations are with people that I consider great at what they do. and I can go and associate with them and have sort of floating companies all over the world, you know. So these are guys that are incredibly fruitful. And normally, when I look in a producer, for example, a producer I'm working with is not only a producer that is good with money, that is good with story, that is good with art, that can recognize. We can fight about money, and then that same person will recognize when an actor is worth the extra money, or a session needs to be re-recorded. And that makes you much more fruitful. Because forget about the things I haven't made. You know, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've had 2 TV series on the air, done 3 movies, produced 5. I've produced 20 movies since I started producing. I wrote 3 books with Chuck Hogan, blah, blah, blah. And it's because of those associations. And I think finding those partners is vital. And that's, for you guys at school, school is about finding those partners also. The guys or friends that you can rely on, and that you're gonna help each other. If you form, for example, 3 persons, form a unit, when one person fucked up, the other person's gonna be okay, and it looks like you guys are okay. You know, it's a strong alliance.
I see
And the fucking steak tartare.
Hi, Guillermo. I'm James.
So I'm very ashamed of removing my sweater. Yes.
Sorry, my name is James.
Yes, James.
I wanted to ask a little bit about how you see the industry of animation going forward, because you have the particular position of developing that now it's Trollhunter for a TV show, but it was a movie a few years back. And you've seen how Netflix has changed a little bit of the playground, and how new investors are coming in from China, and India is changing, and there's now co-productions, and in the last few years there's been movies made for 40 million, 60 million, where back 10 years ago were like 200 million.
Yeah.
And how you see whether co-productions is the future of animation, one, and second, whether you feel that co-productions give you more or less freedom to do what you want to do.
Well, I think that depends on the co-production. If you have a partner that is conservative, it's bad. If you have a partner that is adventurous, it's great. You know, I think that money is a pirate's business. You know, and we are explorers. It's 2 different branches. You know, the ship is run by 2 things. The storytellers look forward and say there is a land to be discovered. And the studio looks back and says, but wait, home is back there. So it's 2 complete impulses in the same ship. You know, we want to go to new places. They want to go to places that are familiar. So, you know, what you're asking me is impossible to answer. What I can say is our experience with Netflix has been creatively amazing. I'm not building a narrative for the DVD extras. We have the absolute freedom in creating the series, and from the beginning they believed in it. Because here's what was very, very uncommon with Trollhunters. I pitched a central hero that was uncomplicated. Normally people say, what is the conflict of the character? I said, no, he doesn't have really a conflict. The story will give him conflicts, but he is a throwback to when I was a kid and I would watch Johnny Quest. And Johnny Quest was sort of a good kid. You know, Haji was a great kid. You were watching, you know, and the troubles that happened to them were what made their lives more and more complex. And this was not originally very well received, but eventually it proved to be one of the things that is strong. So when you have a partner that believes in you, any co-production with your dentist uncle is fantastic. You know, but what I can say for Netflix, in our experience, it has been absolutely great creatively. Where they put out the show we made. I've made movies that are sold as exactly the opposite of what they were. So, you know, that's disappointing. The show was sold beautifully as what it was, and it found a great audience, and that's fantastic. You know, we are the most watched animated show in Netflix Kids history, so that was great. But if it hadn't been, the experience still would have been great, because creatively we were very free. But the future, who knows? You know, a future is what we can make. You know, we make it we sell our cars, we sell our kidneys. you know? So whatever we can do. I'm sorry, I'm not an industry guy. I only play when on TV.
I see questions here towards the front, so we'll bring the mic up.
I thought,
You're not.
goddamn vinegar.
On the flip side, though, where do you see? It's kind of brings us back to where the conversation began. But where do you see kind of like the future of animation in terms of story, maybe less than finance?
I wish, can be completely shameless. Raise your hand if you think you have something to give to the future of animation. Okay, it's here. And I'm not making a fucking talk show host the stunt. There you go, you can do it. That's it, that's the hope. You know, I would go into a horrible metaphor that will get me arrested, but it's fantastic. This is passion. You know, if you have passion, you're on the right camp as far as I'm concerned. You know, I think that we are a paradox in this industry because we are passionate storytellers that live in a passionless environment at a corporate level. You know, we are not unlike people that are inventing new medicines and then they get marketed by a drug company at horrible and affordable prices. But that's our destiny. It's not going to change. It's been there from the start. So seeing that show of hands gives me great hope because it's narrative. Narrative will change the media as much as the media will change narrative. They are a yin and a yang. So if the media changes faster than the narrative, you get crappy stuff. But if the narrative changes with the media, I just saw the VR experience Alejandro Iñárritu created called Carne and Arena, and it's absolutely breathtaking, powerful, new languages. It made Alfonso and I then left Cannes in a little car, and we drove 6 hours to Italy, and we talked about it for several hours. We said we can do this, it can be done like this. You know, it rejuvenates your desire for language, because it's a different language. It's not film, it's not gaming, it's something different. So
that project's an interesting example of someone who is a storyteller taking the challenge of this new medium and thinking about it, as opposed to, I think there are a lot of people, like I saw the one that Catherine Bigelow did, where it's just like people with a lot of money saying, let's get a big name, let them play with this.
I haven't seen anything but this and the commercial ones, but I can tell you this. What Alejandro said that made a lot of sense for me is, look, you had the Lumiere, who recorded a train coming to the station, and accidentally the train came really close to the lens and people freaked out, but the medium only starts to acquire real narrative when the language is developed for it. Medium, close-up, over, master, you know? Then the syntax dictates what you can do. VR is babbling the first syntactic attempt. And you will need to evolve very fast into be able to put it in language. What is a verb? What is an adjective? What is a noun? What is a pronoun? How do you do it? Because when you think about film, and this is when I explain the difference between screenplay and movie, you know, for example, in Devil's Backbone, the first line is an ominous dark door. And my AD said, how the fuck are you going to make it ominous? I said, I don't make it ominous. You know, I'm going to be doling in, there's going to be half a light, it's going to be lit right, and there's going to be a low frequency as I push in. That's an ominous. But you need to take that adjective and translate it into something active. Light, sound, blah, blah, blah. The same is going to need to be systematized in VR. So we're all, everybody in this room, we're all in the gold rush, the explosion, the eclosion of VR. In here, there will be somebody that will make a great VR language exploration. So, you know, that's an opportunity we all have.
Great. All right, we have time for a few more questions. I hope a mic found its way to someone. Let's see hands again, if not. Maybe here on this side. Oh, great, you have the mic. Perfect.
Hello.
Sorry, this is the last question, so the one who just got it back there. Wah, wah.
Recently we learned that Hellboy will be rebooted. As a storyteller, how do you feel about the fact that you did not have the opportunity to to finish the story you started.
With the budget?
No, about Hellboy will be rebooted.
He's talking about the reboot of Hellboy
Yeah.
and how you
that?
feel about
Yeah, that's, you know,
that continuing without him.
I don't own Hellboy. Mike does. So, you know, he's the father of the character, you know, if he wants to reboot it, that's perfectly fine. I got to make 2, you know? Those are 2 more than I thought I would make, you know, and I think I made them because it was a strange conjunction of me thinking, holy shit, Ron Perlman would kill on this, you know, and Ron Perlman killing on it. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I was lucky twice, and God bless, Godspeed, you know. That's your question. Your accent is both charming and hard.
It was a nice short answer. Do we have time to squeeze in did someone get a mic?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, let's squeeze in the last question and then we'll call it a, we'll all go
Nice
to
to
the
meet
brief.
you. You're really an inspiring person, and I wanted to know, you talked a bit about your video game experience with Hideo Kojima, and I do believe, like you do, that he's the best game designer the world has known. And I wanted to know, like, what have you learned with him about, like, a different way of narration? Because his games, like, real particular as an experience, as a narrative, and also as a way to involve the player.
Well, look, for me, Kojima is a guy that is the Mozart of video games, for me. You know, he has a sense of purpose, a sense of narrative, a breadth, and an ambition that combines the virtuoso technically with the virtuoso narratively. And the way we were talking about that project, we were hoping we would push boundaries into making something that was scary. And for lack of a better analogy, it didn't end with the game. That we could actually make it. You remember when Psycho Mantis read your thoughts and so on? We were gonna do things that were tricks that were gonna go beyond the game, and it was gonna be really interesting. And the funny thing about PT, do you guys know what PT is? Yes. Raise your hand. So I know, okay. Well, the playable teaser that we developed for the game, Kojima developed several iterations. Some of them were scarier than what you saw. There was one moment that was almost exactly a moment I had on Crimson Peak, so I took it out, and then it went out of the PT. So it is neither in the movie nor in the playable teaser. But what was great is what you saw was Hideo said, we're going to do it with very basic tools. So it's going to be very primitive. And then people think it's an amateur game until they crack it. He said it'll take them a week to crack it. And it got cracked in a few hours. You know, people went very intensely on it. But what I can say is, it's a great friendship, and you learn from him the fact that, and this is something I want to urge you, visual is a storytelling. The choices you make in color, form, shape, flow, movement is essential part of your storytelling. It's not plot, but it's part of what you're narrating. Because the same way a symphony can be full of life or sad or elegiac or funereal, it's the same tonally with art that is audiovisual. And Kojima understands this perfectly, and his choices are technically impeccable and narratively impeccable. So I think that's the main thing. And in animation, as I said, you need to choose something that suits the form, pushes the form, and uses the form as an invisible part of your storytelling. So all I can say is he's a great artist, he's really good at karaoke, and he's a very cheap date because he eats very little. So there you go. Thank you guys for coming today. Thank you.